actual original idea to create a memorial to homicide victims, it was at a time when a lot of homicides were happening in Boston.
It really disturbed me to see this violence and this needless waste of life.
There was one driving force behind the creation of the Garden of Peace. It was Beatrice Nesson.
So I had read an article in the New York Times about how the Vietnam Vets Memorial had become such a healing place for so many families, and I thought, well, maybe that's one way to help the city heal.
I never thought that I would have to know about victim services and memorials to homicide victims. I was a suburban working mom, but I do know.
25 years ago, I lost my 22-year-old daughter, Sherry, and her baby, 18 months old, my first grandson, to the murder. Ever since then, I became a voice for Sherry and Cedric, and a voice for all the victims.
It was an uphill battle because A, we were all volunteers. B, we had no experience in doing anything like this. We were trying to use public land, and we had no funding.
We procured the actual physical place to put the garden, and that was done through lobbying the legislature to include it in the development of the Saltonstall building. Obviously, the next thing was to get the money, and we created some partnerships with Mass Development, with Suffolk Construction, who were doing the redevelopment of the building. They made significant contributions. Our families made significant contributions, and we raised over $1 million to build this garden.
It wasn't meant to be just like a women's movement. It turned out that most of the volunteers who worked were women, and they were mostly women whose children had been murdered.
Women get things done.
To me, it's a beautiful, healing, quiet, serene place. I can sit there and watch other people go by there, and people just sit there and quietly and close their eyes, and it's so beautiful to see.
I think people who have a loved one's name there really feel like it's their garden and that they own it, that they own that stone.
Each stone is engraved with the name of a victim. So we've filled up all the stones, and we've started engraving on the seat walls.
I have 2 stones out there, but that mixed motion. But I'm proud they have a stone at the garden. So not only myself or my family, other people that walk by there will see their name, so they're not forgotten.
The garden was designed by a volunteer, a woman named Catherine Molina.
What she ended up creating was something that reflected where we were all coming from and how we were all feeling about what we wanted this place to be.
Her concept, which I think has been implemented beautifully, was the journey from grief to renewal. And when you walk in, you see how she represented the journey through a dry riverbed. In the center of that is a black demi-orb, which represents the grief that people suffer when they are faced with homicide. So the idea was the dry riverbed, which ends in hope and renewal, with Judy Kensley McKee's sculpture of the 3 ibises taking off. The McKee's only son, Jesse, was murdered, and so this was a catharsis for her.
I visit there whenever I'm in Boston. I sit and think about my daughter, and I also feel gratified that I was part of creating something that helps so many other people.